And I just thought, couldn't we use all this energy that people direct towards brands for good things? But, it's pretty simple. Doing things for others, in doing things for others, you are doing things for yourself. So that was the beginning. And EARNT is a platform on which volunteers are able to unlock incredible things from brands. Could be a meet and greet with their favorite artist. It could be access to sound check. It could be limited edition product. It could be tickets. But yeah, that's what we've been creating, and I'm really excited to say that it is working.
That is Lauren Scott Harris, founder of a platform called EARNT. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Create Tomorrow podcast. I'm your host, Cassandra Napoli, head of marketing and events insight at WGSN. Every 2 weeks, I will take you on a journey to examine how brands and consumers are creating tomorrow, whether through product innovations, actions and strategies, or online behaviors. Lauren Scott Harris will join me today to explore everything from consumer value, brand action, and ritualistically engineering social good into everyday experiences. Lauren, I'm so excited to have you here. Can you please tell us who you are, what you do at EARNT, and a bit about your career journey up until this point?
Hello, thank you for having me. It's such a cool podcast. I love what you guys do. My whole life was spent in PR. I worked with, I think, every conceivable type of marketing manager, from Pizza Hut through to Soho House, fashion, I mean, you name it. But as influencer culture kicked off, I felt that we as a society were going into a slightly strange place. That was exacerbated by COVID, when essential workers, who were the most important kind of heroic people in our lives at the time, they were going to food banks at the end of their long shifts, and the brands were still kind of sending out gift baskets to influencers. And it all just seemed this sort of really weird juxtaposition. And it took me back to an idea that I'd had many, many years ago, which was asking myself the question, could you use social consciousness as a marketing strategy? And could you therefore create what I now refer to as kind of golden triangles? I used to see people standing outside Nike Town and thinking they were completely insane. There's nothing that could ever be in a shop that would make me want to queue outside for hours. And so I thought, well, what if there was a limited edition sneaker that you could only buy if you had come and done a verified tree planting, beach clean, whatever we chose, whatever the brand chose. And then we'd be really strict, and not we wouldn't send any to influencers and actors and actresses. So I thought that would just be I could just imagine walking along the street and someone saying, "Oh, which one did you do? I did Brighton, or I did the Hamptons or something." And then I imagined it with my son and thinking, well, that would be super cool. If he came, he does the beach clean, we buy our trainers, and then someone says, well done. He's 8, he'd love that. And I just thought, couldn't we use all this energy that people direct towards brands for good things? But, it's pretty simple. Doing things for others, in doing things for others, you are doing things for yourself. So that was the beginning. And EARNT is a platform on which volunteers are able to unlock incredible things from brands. Could be a meet and greet with their favorite artist. It could be access to sound check. It could be limited edition product. It could be tickets. But yeah, that's what we've been creating, and I'm really excited to say that it is working.
So you're essentially capitalizing on the hype cycle, FOMO perhaps, to engineer some good back into the world, right? You're acting as a bridge,
Absolutely.
maybe a bridge. This is a way to describe it in simple terms that links companies and consumers to social causes that they perhaps care about. How does it work? Do you go to the brand first? How do you get them to sign on? What is the experience like in terms of being that bridge?
Great question. It works both ways. So at the very beginning, we had obviously no brands, we had no causes, we had no consumers. And so we initially went to a little school that we knew needed some help. And we said, what is it that you need done? And we kind of estimated it was about £5,000 worth of work. And then we went to find our brand partner. We actually went to the local pub and we said, listen, we've got an idea and we'd really like you to help us with this pilot. But now that we've been going for about 3 years, we have a long list of causes emailing us who would like help, attention. Sometimes it's actual volunteers. Sometimes, it's a myriad of things that they want and need. And we have a lot of brands who come to us as well. And we're kind of, an old school telephone operator in the middle, sitting here, right? That can go with that and that can go with that. And sometimes brands know what they want, and they have their principles pretty well laid out, and they know they want to focus on environmental or something to do with the education for children, or food poverty, etc. Sometimes they have no idea. And either way, we help them find what it is that they would like to direct all this wonderful energy towards. But more and more now we have causes emailing us, which actually makes us really, really happy because the most joyful bit of a conversation, I suppose, particularly with schools in the UK. Schools in the UK are having a really tough time at the moment. They had a lot of funding cut. So when you speak to a head teacher and you say, look, here's the deal. We'll get you 100 people, 200 people, 50 people, whenever you need, and we'll come and do all the fixing and painting and gardening and maintenance. You just tell us when. They get really excited.
What do you think is driving the interest in participating in these types of social good and social cause events that you're putting on? Is it a sort of fatigue and consumerism? Is it a fatigue and influencer culture? Is it just this appetite to do good? Is it driven by young people or is it more intergenerational?
It's really interesting, and the short answer, well, the kind of macro observation I have is it's given me back my faith in the human race because it's all over the place. And I think it's driven by a lot of different things. I think it's driven by us all waking up and questioning our consumption, particularly the kind of older generations and thinking, oh my God, like, what is this age of convenience that I have to have whatever I want, whenever I want it, as cheaply as it can possibly be? At what cost? I think that's dawning on a lot of people. I think the news agenda is very difficult. It's been difficult for a long, long time. And my personal experience with that is I'd pick up the papers and something would make me sad. And I would think, well, come on, what are you going to do about it? For me, it was that children in schools in the UK were not getting lunch. And there were stories of kids taking in lunch boxes that were empty because the shame of not having any food was so great. They didn't want their classmates to know their lunch boxes were empty, but they were kind of faking that they had food. And that just broke my heart. The next thing you do is you call a food bank and you go, I want to help, but you can't get through to them. So you try calling them 5 or 6 times, and eventually someone picks up, and they're really harassed, and they're the ones doing all the frontline work, they're amazing. But then they say, "Listen, you can come every Tuesday at 11." Immediately, I'm out. Immediately, like, all that energy I had to put back and to try and give back, it is like, the logistics of it do not work for someone in the workplace or someone that's got an office job, which is the majority of us. And I just thought there must be so many people just like me who want to do something, but they can't commit for 6 months. They can't do every Tuesday at 11. But, if we consume everything bite-sized, from our news to our, stories to all of the stuff that we now have delivered in these small bite-sized chunks, why couldn't you volunteer in bite-sized chunks? Like, why couldn't I just say, "Look, I don't have every Tuesday, but I've got one Saturday every 6 months, and I'll be there, and I'll bring my kids," or whatever it is. I don't want people to feel that they have to come and do it on a Saturday if they're exhausted, and, but we're not guilting people into it. We're saying, "Do you wanna come and do something that's fun?" And another layer of that is people want in real life events, they want in real life connections. To my complete joy, we have a lot of people coming who are now, as my lovely business partner Lavina puts it, we can tell that they're putting on makeup when they weren't before, and that's because there are a lot of handsome young men and older men and men that come and help paint the schools, and the girls are definitely, everyone's like suddenly realized that this is an incredible dating opportunity as well. Um, so it's fun. It's meant to be fun and vibrant. It's not meant to be, you've had a long week, but don't you think you should give back to society? It's not that. It's you want to have free coffee for a month? Okay, I'm going to tell you to do it. And if you don't want free coffee for a month, brilliant. Like, lie in, chill.
It's social good as currency, essentially. So you're getting people to do some good and they get something in return. I think I love what you said about the idea that it kind of helps forge friendships and perhaps platonic or romantic relationships as well. We talk about the end of dating apps as dating culture and moving into in real life moments, even for friendships, because there is that loneliness epidemic. So I think that makes total sense and basically confirms that all the trends we talk about here at WGSN, which I love. Do you work with creators or do you leverage creators to spread the word? And is that a difficult process? Do you need to ensure that their values align with the causes that you're talking about?
Well, the short answer is no, we haven't as yet, as a strategy, but we've had some amazing people just come. And I think that's, funnily enough, probably our strategy. I think you will self select either because, exactly as you say, it's a cause that resonates with them, or because you've seen what it is that the brand are offering, and you think that's fun, or it's a nice thing to do on a Saturday morning. So while at the start, I kind of naturally I went into PR mode, and I wanted to contact lots of creators and say, please, will you come? But it's a slight nuance in that the deal with a creator is they're giving a brand their time and their eye, and that's what they then produce. That there's the contract there almost. But with what we're doing, they have to they don't get any special privileges because they're a creator, i.e., if they're there for the brand thing, everybody's getting the brand thing, and they too have to do what everybody else has to do. So, funnily enough, it's almost a double ask because they have to do all the volunteering, but then if they wanna go and create the content as well, they're doing more than everybody else.
Nice. So, what types of brands do you work with? Is there a vetting process in place? Because I imagine the brand will need to have lived some of those values already before working with a social cause, such as environmentalism, for example, as otherwise it could come across as a form of greenwashing, essentially.
Yeah, no, I completely take that point, and I think, again, while we absolutely would not greenwash or take part in any greenwashing for anyone, as I say, sometimes we talk to brands and they go, we don't really know what we care about. We know we care, but like, what would you suggest? And we go, we've got tons of schools that need your help. Let's do that. And they go, great. So we do get quite a range of brands, some of whom need direction, some of whom absolutely have, pinned all of their principles very, clearly and signaled and wonderful. One of the greatest we work with is Law Hotel Group, and their ESG and CSR is phenomenal. They have the most wonderful lady called Jacqueline Nieban, who runs it. And they just couldn't have been clearer with their brief. They knew exactly what they wanted to do. And it's been so interesting to see how incredibly, layering on their work with us, that's resonated both with their consumers, but also with their team and their staff. We just did an event in DC with Law Group, and the volunteers helped with the Trans Pride March. And that was something that was so special to them, but particularly to their team members of the hotels out there, who apparently just said, thank you very much. We really, really back the fact that you as a company are doing this. So there's lots of different ways in which the brands come to us. But yes, we've never yet been approached by a brand that we've gone, are you kidding? It's fast fashion or something that we would absolutely not touch. We haven't yet come across a silo where you couldn't use the EARNT model, which is quite fun. You can do it with theatre, you can do it with sport, you can do it with kids' theme parks if you want to. One of my favorite things to think about is that you could create a VIP, little kids bracelet, and they can jump 5 queues at Disney World or something, but they have to have done a litter pick or a tree planting with their family. I'd love to be queue barged by an 8-year-old that, is kind of proudly going, "No, come on, Auntie, I'm not King of Space Mountain." And dream would be a video game where we could get lots of younger people off the sofa for a couple of hours to go to a food bank before they could get to the next level or something, and they do it. The demand out there, I think, would be so exciting to see.
So it seems like a lot of the brands and initiatives that you've helped, along the way so far have been US and UK focused. Is there appetite to grow beyond that? Is that in the works already, or are you kind of keeping it intentionally small right now, local?
We really want it to be global. We would like it to be something that is used universally across all countries. I think, interestingly, thinking about that and the travel, it's an interesting answer to over tourism as well. Like, if you could, imagine you had to pay a £25 city pass, or you had to go and do 3 hours of, something to help the City of London when you arrived, and then you get your whatever, your museum jump cards or something. I just think that could be really, really interesting. So for me, the many, many iterations of this and the many different ways that we can use it goes on forever and ever. And so, yeah, the bigger the better.
Yeah, when you mentioned the tourism aspect, it's so relevant, especially everything going on right now. A lot of European cities are trying to combat over tourism. Barcelona was in the news this week. And I think this really is the solution to that. So, yeah, totally makes sense. It sounds like almost it's I know you didn't like the word reward, but it does sound almost like a loyalty program in some sense, right? Like you are essentially baking a social good element in and rewarding people for their good deeds with lots of opportunities that they want access to, right? But Gen Z, if you think about it, are a very notoriously anti-brand loyal group of consumers. Do you think Earned is a sort of solution to that, baking value-backed initiatives into their consumption and recreational habits to get them to be loyal to something, even if it's not a brand, but maybe to a cause?
I think so. I mean, I do have high hopes in that area, but Gen Z fascinate me. But immediately when I think of that, I think, well, they're not loyal, but they'll also stand in a queue for 2 hours for a matcha, from blank street or something. And so I must think that for them, I wonder if they would still want it if there was no queue. Like, I feel like the queue is the rite of passage, and the photo at the end for the Instagram is kind of the proof of that, which is why I think EARNT will really, really resonate with them because, we're saying like, yeah, you kind of you take someone down before you let them go up, and therefore the enjoyment seems that much bigger, and they become these incredible advocates. The Hagen Green Cup. People love wielding that in stores because people know what it means and they're getting their little moment of being a hero and everyone knows that they volunteered and things. And I think for them, funnily enough, while it might not make them increasingly loyal to a brand, or maybe it would. I just think it's absolutely fair. I think they want almost like it's been so easy for them. They don't know anything before click, click, buy. I remember going on the train to go to Topshop or something, and I'm really not that old. But shopping was a thing, and you took your transport and your pocket money, and you went, and it was a whole day. And I think almost it's nauseating to them sometimes how easy it is to just get stuff, 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 stuff. So when you take the reverse and you go, you cannot have this unless you do that. It's speaking to their social consciousness, but it's also, they really, really feel excited by the reward, the prize, the Etty at the end because they're going, look, and they are with the green match or whatever it is that the big blank street thing is. Um, so yeah, I do think it does engender loyalty, and we are seeing some of that in our early case studies from the brands as well as these people become repeat customers. Sometimes they're new customers because they've come from our side. We think it'll increase the lifetime value because if you're having an emotional connection with a brand, that's what people are looking for. When you listen to Scott Galloway, all the marketing podcasts and stuff, like it's very difficult to build an emotion associated with a brand, but once you do, like, you're in.
We call that emotioneering, engineering emotional
Ooh, I
experiences
like it.
into your marketing or retail experiences, and I think this speaks to that exactly. At WGSN, we've been talking a lot about just the idea of living in a polarized climate, like, right? So brands increasingly don't have a choice but to double down on their values and what they stand for really publicly. Otherwise, they risk losing market share essentially amongst young consumers in particular who want to align with brands that, hold themselves accountable, highlight their values and really spell it out for their consumers. Do you think brands have to do some good today to win over young consumers who expect it? Do you think that this sort of earned model is really the only way forward for some brands if they want to win over really discerning Gen Z and increasingly alphas too, who are rising into teenagers now with values intact because of their millennial
I
parents?
think, one, you've got the older generations and the millennials and beyond who wanted and demanded either transparency or some social responsibility from brands, and then were given things like, "We plant a tree for every something," which frankly, like, where? Show me. Did you? Like, it just felt box checky. It didn't feel tangible. And I think what I love about the EARNT model is you can't fake people doing a beach clean. Like we take so like it's present and it's literal and it's offline. And I think the opportunities that younger generations have when they look at the world are astonishingly reduced from what the older generations have had. Um, They the fact that they don't even think that they would own a home and that, maybe it's great that we'll all use zip cars and stuff, but this kind of ownership is not something that occurs to them as much, and therefore I think brands really have to earn their right to charge you for something or to be a part of your world because it feels like it's getting tighter. It's not if I'm buying this, it's probably a significant amount of my paycheck, or I've really thought about it. And so when a brand lies to you, it feels like such a betrayal. And I think we're just all so sick of that. And funnily enough, like I suppose on one hand, I'm saying we need this transparency. We need it to be tangible. We need it to be real. We need it to be in our communities that we interact in. And it is wonderful to help something across the globe and know that whatever, there's an earthquake in Turkey and I'd like to donate some money. But it's also so important and what we lost to know that your neighbor 2 doors down just lost a husband and just needs a smile, not even like something baked, but just a little bit of your time. And so bringing it all kind of back to these behaviors that are natural and that we thrive from. We need community. That's a piece of our genetic makeup that you can't replace with a good relationship or a good job or something. Like, we are meant to be doing it. And I think if a brand is helping land that lesson for you, or encourage you to come to the little local primary school around the corner, which you may never have even thought about because you're 22 and you haven't been in a primary school in a while and you don't yet have kids, um, then I really think that for younger generations, they can set a good example that will only behoove them. Will only help everybody in that equation.
How do you determine what causes are worth investing in, right? There's loads of problems in the world. There's loads to do. How do you determine what's right for the earned audience?
We know lots of causes that need help, but they need different kinds of help. Um, some would just like two people a week to come and help host the bingo, and that's great, but they don't need us too much. So there's a lot of in the UK particularly, there's a lot of grassroots charities who are existing on a tiny, tiny amount, and whenever they contact us, we will try and help them. Where we really see a sweet spot at the moment, is working with these schools. One, because it's very well publicized how difficult a time they're having. It seems so fixable. Like, we can do so much with 50 to 100 people. You can do 5,000 to £10,000 worth of work for the school. Like, it's amazing. It's also very easy to report back on for the brand. So it's really nice when we can give a really good chunky number and go, you know, you're, you're wonderful, whatever. This collaboration with Law Group that we did. We found an old community center that was in complete disrepair, managed to get the right people, and we took a team of 100 there for the weekend, and we all just brought it back to life, at which point the council came and inspected it and all the local leaders, and then they decided they would take it back on and they would refund it because it was now at a state that, it would become useful again. So there are things that are really, really easy to tangibly show, and you do before and after and all these things. But yeah, frankly, we're listening to anyone that needs our help, and if we find a brand that's a good fit, then great. But obviously, we're not going to be getting into anything that could be controversial. But yeah, I mean, there's just so many issues, and that's the other thing I suppose with us is we have this never-ending supply of inventory, which is the hours that need to be volunteered. Like, and if the world was a perfect place, then our business wouldn't exist, and that would be a great reason to go out of business. But it's not. Like, there are so many holes that need to be filled, and what's cool as well, like, this is an untapped workforce, like, for the government. If I was in government, I'd be, calling us immediately. We can get people who have never volunteered to come and fix schools, and they do it for free.
What can we expect in the future from EARNT? Is there any projects or initiatives that are in the works that we can anticipate in the next couple months?
We've got everything from lots of school fix-ups, which would be really fun, to, painting murals in schools, which is very close to my heart as well. We've had lots of headmistresses and headmasters say, "Look, it's just so great. Like, if there's any way you can get someone to come and design a mural or something." So we do paint by numbers murals, which are really fun. And there may be some very cool collaborations that happens with. We've got a young women's football tournament to encourage young women to start playing sports, which is very, very exciting. We've got our litter cleanups, we've got our river cleanups. So lots in London coming up, but we are just making plans for the kind of second half of the year, and they're getting more creative and they're getting bigger in numbers. So I will really look forward to telling you about them as soon as we can reveal the brands.
What's one piece of advice you can leave? So, a lot of the people listening tend to be people that work for brands. What's one piece of advice that you can leave us with in terms of how they can get involved or operate in this sort of new social currency?
I think I would say don't underestimate your consumer. I think so many brands at the beginning when we said, and I get it. If I'm the River Cafe and I always emailing my customers about how beautiful lunch is going to be £300 in the most beautiful spot in London, all these things, and then the next email is, "Do you want to put on wellies and get in the Thames?" It's kind of disgusting. I think a lot of brands just don't believe that their consumer that they think it's a bit icky, or something that should be avoided, or it's a bit too sad, or they don't want the brand to be next to a primary school that's struggling because then everyone thinks of the children struggling, they feel sad. They don't feel sad, they feel empowered, they want to do something, they want to help. So when considering how to get involved, I would just say just be brave, and you will earn the hearts of your consumers in a way like you've never seen. The replies that we get about events or the comments or the things that just get emailed into brands thanking them for jumping in is so wonderful. I think the only complaints we've ever got on that front are, as I say, that we weren't active in the area that someone was. We had a wonderful lady who wanted there was a limited edition Desmond and Dempsey robe we did. And we said to people in the UK, you've got to come, you have to do any act of kindness for 4 hours via the platform. And this woman emailed in from America and she said, I want it so badly. And she said, I've made a slow, what's it, like a slow-mo video. I know, I've got a sped up video of me doing a 4-hour beach clean. And she literally put her phone up and did 4 hours of recording to prove that she'd done it, kind of holding up the newspaper and going, it was today, and blah, blah, blah. And it was so divine. It was really, really inspiring. So yeah, I would say just don't underestimate that how much people want to be involved and then how much they'll love you for leaning in.
That's lovely. Like always, I ask all of my guests who is somebody that they admire who's creating an inspiring or new version of tomorrow. So, who is your pick?
Oh, there are a few, but I am currently absolutely mad fangirling Rutger Bregman. Rutger has just released Moral Ambition, and it's all about exactly how we hope EARNT sits, which is the head of a business and the heart of a charity. And his call to action is simply, look, if you've got a big brain, and even if you don't actually have a big brain, like, why are you not solving the world's problems? Like, what are you doing that's so important? Come on, like, we need you. We need everybody. And it's just he's very dry. He doesn't pull a punch. He was on the Jon Stewart show making everyone laugh because he said he'd give a, they said, what would you say to the Harvard grads or something? And he said, like, stop wasting your time. He's just very, very direct. But I find that approach really, really refreshing. And I agree with it entirely, which is, none of us have the right to kind of sit back and hope that somebody else fixes it. And actually, everybody does want to help. So if it's a big way, great. If it's a little way, fine. But we don't have the luxury actually of all the time in the world. And we don't have, there's very little that can affect you negatively when you lend a hand, when you volunteer, when you give, even if you just give, as the aforementioned woman on your street who just needs a bit of attention, it goes such a long way. So I'm really enjoying his very refreshing, direct approach about how we've all got to get up off our seats.
I love that. Very global, as you were saying, global and local.
Local.
Thank you to my guest, Lauren Scott Harris, founder of EARNT. If you're a WGSN subscriber, look out for more trends at WGSN.com. If you're not a subscriber, please come and discover our services. We'll be back with our next episode soon. In the meantime, you can catch the CEO of WGSN, Carla Buzasci, next week on our other podcast, Lives of Tomorrow. I'm your host, Cassandra Napoli. Be sure to follow and subscribe to this podcast, and see you next time.